Okay, we should be live. Let's make sure nothing is like blowing out anyone's eardrums. Alright. Probably would help if there is audible music for everyone in chat. Speaking of chat, hello everybody. Welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, link 252, otherwise known as the Persona 5 Strikers Game Club / Town Hall discussion. If you would like to talk about all things Persona 5 Strikers in a mostly spoiler-free environment, talk about the game, talk about if you've been playing it for the first time recently with it on PlayStation Plus, or just want to talk about the game because it's pretty much almost at a 1/2 year anniversary, you can join the SMTN Discord and talk about it live in the Town Hall discussion group. Just make sure you meet yourself and let me know when I can add you in, and we can let people on one at a time. If you want to just talk with the text, you can just jump into the text with YouTube. All of that stuff works as well. Or if you're listening on podcast services, that is also super duper appreciated. Really quick housekeeping, everybody. I just got back from TaioCon. I have 2 panels to edit. I have an interview I still need to put up. All of those will go up early for Patreon supporters, so if you want to get those early, please consider supporting us at literally $1 a month. We'll get all that early access for those at patreon.com/SMTN. Besides that, though, let's just jump into this. So I have my water here. I've been running around all over today because coming back from vacation, I've decided to make my life as messy and complicated as possible. But thanks everyone in the live chat for being in here so far. So hello Joseph, Mauricio, Hollow J, and Matthew. Okay, cold water is still good, so thank you, non-specific cold water. And Chris, thank you so much, Chris, for jumping into the live show. Let's get some B-roll. I'm not going to be the most fancy pants boy today, but I do have some B-roll footage for everybody. So enjoy my very old gameplay of Strikers. Alright, so this should also, all of the dialogue and all the stuff there is just going to be muted, so we're going to have to worry about talking over anything. We've got the soundtrack, we've got some spoiler-free gameplay, and I am ready to talk about Strikers with all of you. So let me check if anyone was brave enough to jump into the Discord. Alright, Discord fam. Nobody is waiting in the town hall, but that is okay because God forbid we prep this ahead of time. So I can just kind of kill some time. If you want to jump in, just jump into the town hall in the Discord. I will let you all in one at a time, and we can just kind of talk about this as it comes. So yeah, Strikers, it was really funny. It actually came up a lot this weekend when I was at the convention, and one of the funny things while talking about the game was I was so surprised. I think one of the things I was so surprised about is while I was doing the Persona 25th Anniversary panel, how many people had played it. And I was like, I wonder if this was one of those things that obviously more people have played probably Vanilla and Royal, but was kind of wondering where that split came from it. And what was so funny about it was then looking at everything and being like, no, yeah, a lot of people have really played this. And one of the other funny things is so many more people have played it on PS4 than PC or Switch for this group of everything. So that was even really, really funny as well. What is up, Coogan? Coogan, thank you so much for popping in. And yeah, so it's been really funny about how this game, I feel, really hit a lot harder than almost every other non-mainline Persona game. Even more than Dancing, more than Q. I don't know if it was just because it was so intrinsically tied to Persona 5 and made it like kind of so recent, because it had been like many, many years since then, but it was just so fun to me of seeing this really, really quality game just really hit with a lot of people and just made me really, really happy to see something that was so genuinely good. Because, like, for me, and I know it's been a while since I reviewed the game, but my complaints with it are so minor. Like, the fact that I wish there was more to do after you beat the game that wasn't just extra missions. Like, having little things like, I think co-op would have been really fun, but that would have been really hard to design into the game. It's just one of those things of everything that's there is great. It's just the little things of like, hey, maybe having like costumes would have been fun, or maybe having other characters, like more unlockables. Like there's really only one unlockable character in the whole game with Wolf. So the discussion for me has always been extremely, extremely positive. Um, but yeah, again, if you have opinions, whether they be positive or negative, I very much welcome you all into the town hall. Like we have two people right now. I'm sorry I missed whoever was first. So we're just going to go by sonic order because I know Cross Rendering is very patient. So Majin Zero, welcome to the live show. How are you doing tonight? Feel free to unmute yourself anytime. No rush.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I was watching the thing. Hold on, let me close a couple of things.
You are all good.
How are you doing tonight?
I am very tired, very behind on a lot of work things. Have to go back to my actual day job tomorrow, so dreading that. But glad to be distracting myself at least for probably the next like hour and a half by talking about this. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So this is where I come clean. I've only played halfway through the first dungeon in Strikers, I think.
Okay.
Something like that.
Had you been playing it recently with Plus or like when it first came out?
Plus only. I wasn't very interested when Strikers came out because
I mean, hey,
was still
free is free though.
True. I played the original and then I went straight to. I played all the other Persona spin-offs and I didn't really care for them, so I just kind of dipped on Strikers and played something else. I don't remember what I played, but either way. I think it's okay, honestly. Just from the bit that I played. Obviously, it's not as in-depth as like Devil May Cry or whatever, but it's still alright.
No, there is yeah. It may feel like you're playing as Virgil sometimes, but Virgil it is not.
No, yeah, that's the best part. Is Yusuke is literally just Virgil.
It's always so funny to me, like how different games. Because like I think of two very different examples, but I think of the Power Rangers fighting game and Persona 5 Strikers for games that made me feel like Virgil without being DMC.
Oh yeah, I personally have not played Battle for the Grid, but from what I hear, someone plays. I think it's the White Ranger. I don't remember. It's one of them, but yeah, it's just funny because I think Virgil is just the easiest move set to get right. So
Well, it's funny because like
you know,
with something like Virgil, like you don't see people be like, "Oh, that's a Nero clone," or "That's a Dante clone." There's something very
I mean, it's
interesting.
something with the sheathing of the sword. I think. It's one of them,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Oh, somebody
it's just funny because
Chiaki. There you go. Thank you. we had somebody in who was listening. That's funny. Out of all the town halls and live shows, I don't think I've ever actually. That's never actually happened yet so far. But yeah, if you jump into the thing, as long as you mute yourself, you should be good. But so since you are playing it with Plus, I know you said you're a little iffy and you're on the first dungeon. What were the kind of like specific complaints for you? Because one of the big things I always tell people with Strikers is its first dungeon is easily its worst, which is extra weird that it was like voted best dungeon by a lot of people.
Uh, I in terms of actually playing the game, I don't have any problems. I just don't really care for the visual design. I know what they were going for like a theme park kind of aesthetic, but I personally don't like it that much. I don't
Oh,
think it fits super well.
also thank you for looking it up for us. Hollow J, it is Quantum Ranger. So we were close, but yes, for all you battle for the grid people out there, Quantum Ranger is it. So would you say is it the design visually of like the whole game's engine, or just like how Shibuya itself is kind of designed? Because I actually
No,
feel
it
like I
because
like how the
if you look
characters look.
I no, see, I don't like how the game looks. I think like Persona 5 obviously had a very similar. God, I'm having a hard time talking. I'm so sorry.
It's a Tuesday, I get it.
Similar
Actually, no, it's a
looking
Wednesday.
style.
Jesus.
Yeah, similar looking style, and I don't know. I think they made it. It kind of looks like they went a little bit overboard. Like they kind of look like toys now. I don't know. It's just weird to me.
See, there's definitely like there's less like graphical sort of features and stuff like that, similar to I don't like the sort of covers all the round border of like when you're in the metaverse. Like I don't like all the filters kind of in the way. So I liked how it got rid of some of the like overly showy stuff. Obviously there's nothing as like there's nothing as like in your face pretty as the like maybe like your Showtime attacks. A lot of it is dumbed down in some ways, but I feel like the compromise that I got out of it of like I think it the fact that it runs at 60, I would take the visual difference over the game running at 30 and looking exactly like Persona 5.
Yeah, I don't know. Does the Switch version run at 30?
Yeah,
Like,
the Switch one is
is it?
locked
Yeah.
30.
Okay, that's what I figured. I mean, I don't really care that much about resolution. I beat SMT5 recently, so
Mm-hmm.
resolution is not an issue for me, but whatever. But no, I think the game's okay. It's probably not going to be my thing. I'm probably never going to finish it, but I think it's fine. It's whatever. It's more of a Persona game than a Muso game, and I think that's very important to keep in mind when you recommend the game to people.
Yeah, and I also think that has a large factor in terms of I think that does more good than anything is having
Hmm.
that there of like if it was just like a Hyrule Warriors or even like a Dragon Quest Heroes, I don't think as many people would have jumped in even knowing it's a canon story. Whereas it's still feeling a lot more like an RPG than button mashing
See,
is one of its biggest pluses.
yeah, no, see, I think they should have gone more of the Hyrule Warriors route because honestly, let's say because obviously, there are people who want to play Persona 5 specifically on the Switch. So let's say they want to jump into Strikers. I don't know. I mean, I guess from a perspective point of view, but I don't know. I think they just didn't need the calendar at all because it doesn't do anything. It just moves by the
Oh,
story.
man, I like almost always forget it's there. That's definitely there for like a window dressing thing. Yeah, the calendar system, it's like you can jump in and out of a dungeon 50,000 times. It's never going to progress anything. Yeah, that's definitely one of those things that's there to make it feel like Persona and doesn't really gain anything, but I would also argue doesn't hurt the overall experience. Whereas, like, I think if it like think about how much more limiting it would have been if okay the calendar system's here and you can only go one time a day and you have to beat this dungeon within like 20 trips.
Yeah, I personally make the argument they should have just made checkpoints healing stations as well because maybe that would cut down on some of the tedium. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
no,
It's a Muso game, so
I get that for sure. At the very least, it's interesting because other Dynasty Warrior games don't actually rely on items as heavily as this one does. Like most times it'll be like, hey, you can give yourself like 5 or maybe 6 items sometime for buffing your like stuff whereas like this game you can seriously make yourself like almost impossible to kill with items. You can access them at any time. It always stops the battles whereas like yeah, like the other ones like this game definitely has almost I would say not an over reliance on items because it's all up to however much you want to use them, but there are definitely times where it's like if you keep going back and forth, yeah. I wonder how people would feel if the items were a lot more limiting. You had to select them before coming in, and then the trade off for that is every save point, then you can heal and restore your SP. Because really, the only reason you would really leave the world outside of for quest and story reasons is to then that's the easiest way to get all of your health and SP back.
would you say that's an Atlas thing? Like, who do you think made that call? Do you
No,
think it was Tecmo
that's
or
definitely an Omega Force thing for sure. Because like in terms of Atlas for it, like that's not having to leave the world and come back is not like a convenience thing. That definitely seems more of a thing of like, hey, we have these shops. If they didn't like if we immediately let you save and recover all of your health and SP, you would never buy at the shops unless you had to. Whereas like that
Mhm.
then gives you the reason because you can't. There's not a one-stop shop option unless you're talking about weapons and stuff with the Sophie shop. So it's one of those like things of like, do you go with convenience or do you go with making the world feel more fleshed out?
I don't know. When I'm playing an action game, I would kind of prefer convenience.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm not saying action games need to be combat, combat, combat all the time, but what I am saying is that filler in between the combat sections needs to be interesting.
No,
So,
and I get I almost do wonder if they would have been benefited. Probably not in an original game, but like if we do finally ever do get a sequel to this, that they could maybe just be like, hey, let's make a action mode, or here's the story mode. Like, let's say if you just wanted to go through this and treat this like an action game and blow through this, like, instead of having story reasons to go back and forth, like, what if you just wanted to play it like missions as opposed to a set linear kind of thing? So you can play it like a Persona game, or you can just play it like a Devil May Cry, where you're just doing mission, mission, mission.
I don't know. I personally, that's how I would personally want it, but I don't know if including both would, because that could add problems on top of that. I don't know. I honestly don't think we're ever going to get a sequel to this for
Really?
like Persona 6 or whatever.
Even
Well,
though,
because
even though it's like the best selling like non-mainline game?
the reason I say that is because I think Atlas is still getting used to being popular. So they're just going like Arena did not get a sequel even though everyone begged for a P5A. So I'm pretty confident, at least at this point in time, that we're not going to get a P6 Strikers Scramble, whatever.
Well, actually, I would say, do you think it's more I would never believe a P6 Strikers. That would seem so weird to wait that long, because that would be like a decade-long kind of game. I would think, why not just do... Miguel, actually, in the chat, is being like, I'm on my knees, I want a third Persona 5 game. I think if they just made the third Persona 5 game as just Strikers 2, I think that would be really smart. Of like, you already have this engine, you already have a dev team who's very flexible, and they have a system that, for the most part, really works and is well regarded, and then you could just tighten up that overall experience of like change the setting again. You've got the main core of cast, so all you've got to do is just build out the roster, because really the only thing this game did is it only made 2 original new characters that you had to play as. So I feel like that would be infinitely cheaper, and it, with it being its biggest selling game, you just figure would sell more and more and more.
I mean, Arena did get a sequel. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so like, and again, the arena thing for everyone, like, it's always such a tough one of like, it would have been great if Atlas let Arc System Works build another arena, but after Ultimax sold so poorly, you were stuck with the decision of, okay, do they bet the bank again on arena with the Persona 5 filter, or do they wait until... Because, yeah, it's like, they would have had to have made it like around the same time as Dancing coming out, which then I feel would have been a little too soon. But then the other problem is they probably still, even now, can't afford Arc System Works. At least I don't think they can. Like, we still don't know Arc System Works is working on the port. So it's that weird thing of like, I don't know if we'd ever... even now, like, even if Ultimax comes out in 2 months and sells like 5 million copies, I don't know if they would then greenlight Persona 5 Arena.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Atlas has this weird thing of picking and choosing what spin-offs deserve to get made, and it's just weird.
I will say this, because I don't know any other time I'll have to say this, and I don't think I've posted about it. I am a grown man, and I made this actual choice sober. I bought a second copy of Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight this weekend. It
okay,
was,
by itself or the Endless Collection?
by
or
itself,
whatever?
it was physical. I was at a convention, and some guy was selling it sealed, brand new, for 15 bucks. And I
for
was
that
like,
price, you might as well.
I don't
I'd
have...
say.
The only copy I have is the very underwhelming Dancing Endlessly Night JPEG edition.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
So my whole thought about it was like, I should get this because I've actually been looking for the physical copy. For whatever reason, this is really weird. P3 Dancing is dirt cheap. Like, you can buy it for like 15 bucks or whatever. Everyone watching this, if you get a chance, go to eBay or go to Mercari, look at places, even Amazon. Go to any online shop, look at how much a full, complete copy of Persona 5 Dancing is. It is incredibly more expensive. Like, it's almost $60 now, which is crazy because it was bargained bin
just for
forever.
P5.
Just P5.
Just for P5.
P3,
wow.
super cheap. P5, really expensive. Like, it just bumped up in price a lot. Maybe, like, beginning of 2020. Actually, like, right before Royal came out.
Huh. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... Do you think miraculously Persona 3 Dancing sold more than 5 Dancing? Because there's no way. But...
No, that's the funny thing. Yeah, 5 actually sold the most, so that's probably less surprising because it was the most popular. Whereas in my brain, I would think 3 is the rarest because 3 is probably the more like nostalgia-y. Whereas like 5
Hmm.
Dancing isn't very. There's not a lot of nostalgia bait. There's just mostly fan service.
Well, I also think that I don't know. I don't really like calling it the retro market, but a lot of times it is with retro stuff.
Hmm.
The video game like aftermarket is very confusing. Like sometimes it depends on trends a lot of the time. So I imagine because Persona 5 is the most recent game, it's probably a bit up there, and then Persona 3 people don't care about, but I don't know. It's weird.
It is really, really weird. I gotta get a couple more people in here, man, but I appreciate coming on. I want to at least ask you one question, though. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to go for it. What do you think
Okay.
it'll do for you to at least finish that first boss? Because I'll at least say this: the first dungeon has a very strong first boss, and it does improve a
Hmm.
lot after you get out of it, because then the road trip actually gets started. So what can I do to make you finish that first dungeon?
Um, See, that's the thing is like I would consider finishing it for like charity or something. I don't know. That would be fun.
We'll make a GoFundMe for you to beat this game you got for free.
Yeah, please do. I'm desperate for money. But anyway, and then the only question I've got for you is because the last time I was on here, you and I were talking about well, just for a minute, the Danganronpa game. I
Yes.
still haven't played that, but I have recently played and I'm currently playing Spike Chunsoft's previous endeavor, AI, the Somnium Files. Have you played that at all?
I have not. That's another one that like I desperately need to get, but I just haven't. It's one of those
Hmm.
weird ones of like I still need to finish the Zero Escape trilogy, but it's
Oh,
like
okay.
I'd rather play those in order in terms of what the guy's making, and that's one that's like I know that that game's never going to get rare. I was hoping that they would actually get ported to PS5. Um,
Hmm.
just because even the new one, at least I at least thought the new one would maybe come to PS5, but it looks like see it's like really weird. Some devs seem very adverse to jumping into next gen stuff, whereas like other games do. Like when you look at the games that are next gen and the other ones that aren't, it really makes no sense. But I know that I would love AI the Somnium File. I just need to actually sit down and play it.
No, yeah, I've been playing it. It's great. Um, I wouldn't say if you just don't have a physical, then good luck trying to find one. But
See,
because that,
thankfully, I know a very easy way to get the physical for the first one. My only thing is like I also would play that on PS4, which is remarkably easier to get than the Switch version physically.
oh yeah, no, I bought mine digitally on Switch for like 15. But anyway, yeah, yeah, I'd say give it a try. I know the second game's coming out soon, so I'm pretty excited for that.
All right, and a reminder to everybody to also play that game because Spike Chunsoft not always putting out bangers, but AI the Somnium File is a certified hit at least.
Yeah, it's really good. Look, as someone who doesn't like visual novels, please try it out. I think some people would like it. But anyway, all right, I gotta go.
All right,
So
man.
I'll talk to
Thanks
you
for
later.
popping in. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, our next guest is Cross Renren. Speaking of Danganronpa jerk off lovers, Cross Renren, how are you doing tonight?
No, can't complain. I'm doing really good.
So I have an important Danganronpa question before I talk to you about P5S, which is why we're really here. If I
Yes.
told you I asked the voice of Monokuma, what do you think about Danganronpa Decadence? What do you think their initial reaction is to it? Positive or
Uh,
negative?
Decadence as a whole or just summer camp?
Let's just say the game's getting re-released. Well, I guess yeah, and Summer Camp because that was the question I asked about. Because there's
Well,
since there's no voice acting.
I would say maybe positive. Like, even though I'm sure they probably didn't do redo the voice lines, but since Monokuma's voice is really good, I think they'll probably be proud of that. More people are going to be able to see or hear, I should
Happy,
say, the voice.
happy. More people are experiencing it for sure. Probably would have been happier if the entire cast was invited back because it looks like the whole cast basically wanted to do the island stuff, but no, obviously was never asked to. And then
Well, yeah,
obviously,
because that would be
most
a
people don't
bit.
know this. So like when voice actors do the job, it's definitely a one and done kind of thing. So they get
Hmm.
none of the voice actors get any of the money for their work being republished again on Switch. So they don't get any extra money.
Hmm.
So
I
that's
mean, if the game were to sell a lot, then they'd probably be like, "Hey, kind of want
yeah,
that money."
they'll do that they'll do the Silent Hill 2 Where's My Royalty thing 20 years later. So cross
Yeah.
and P5S is it's back. It's hotter than ever. Pokemon is not out yet, so thankfully the gaming landscape we're like the biggest game releases this week is like God of War coming to PC. So thankfully it's a very slow time for new releases. So
Yeah.
have you been replaying it again, or do you just want to talk about how much you may or may not love or hate this game?
Well, I'll first start off saying that I'm a big Persona 5 simp. So, Majin Zero, who is my good friend, I told him like, "Hey, Strikers is on PS Plus. You should play it. Just give it a little tidbit because fun fact about him, he doesn't really like P5 that much. So, as the resident Persona 5 AI Somnifile Danganronpa simp, I have to recommend my games I play to all my fellow friends. So, that and yeah, I like P5S a lot.
Here's the weird question: where do you rank it among the other P5 games? So let's say Q2, P5, Royal, Dancing, and Strikers. Where does it land?
Uh, it would probably be below Royal. Royal would just be the top. Then it's well, that's hard because I don't really rank things, but I think it will be below Royal because it's the Persona 5 cast again, and this time everyone has a full game length of being there. Even though the game may be shorter than Persona 5, it's still a full game length of all the characters I love are back and they can interact again, and it's a good time. But
Gotcha.
Royal would be the top because it's the actual main game, and it's a better version
See,
of
then just you wait
5.
till wait till they release the Persona 5 Strikers 2 Royal Edition. That is basically the entirely same game. They just included Maruki DLC, Akechi DLC, and Kasumi DLC.
I'll buy 2 out of the 3 of those.
Oh my gosh. So for you though, if you had, because speaking of kind of selling this game for people out there, if you had to say, I've played Persona 5 Royal, I love the world, I'm not a big Omega Force fan. Why should I play this game? What would you say to them?
I would say, do you like Persona 5? Yes, play it. If you do not like Persona 5, enjoy it in some form. I feel like Royal is a not I wouldn't say fan service game, but it's a game that if you like Persona 5, you'll enjoy this because it's them again in a new form. And as someone that doesn't strictly play JRPGs, I play a bunch of stuff. I was able to get into this game and have fun. Although not a fault on the game, but it is kind of funny to think that I could have beaten the whole game without using the left stick because Nintendo's Joy-Cons are just so great. And so sometimes I would just like, you know what, I'm gonna complete this section without touching the front stick and just have Joker move on his own. But that's not a fault on Striker's part. That's just the Switch experience.
I was legitimately thinking of like, should I replay this game for the game club on the Switch? And I haven't actually, unfortunately, had any time. Like, basically, since I announced the game club, I've been on vacation and running all over the place. I haven't had any time for it, but I'm gonna try and put a little bit more time into it, like in the background of like when I'm working, since I don't really have to
Hmm.
enjoy the story. It weirdly though, this game re-releasing on PS Plus, this probably makes a little bit more sense. Has way reinvigorated me to wanting to not finally platinum it, but at least get more work into the end game, because it's one of those things of like it's such a long platinum. Whereas like if you do it all at once, you're gonna burn out really hard, but it is still a fun game to play. Like, because one of the things I hate is like when I'm going for a platinum, and by the time I do it, it makes me just never want to play the game again, like Nocturne, which I do not want to have with this game.
Dang. I've thought about that since I did get it on a PlayStation Plus. But maybe platinum it, but I was like, nah. I don't really platinum games. I've only platinumed 2 games in my life, and those because the platinums were really easy.
So I'm assuming
So
Royal and what was the other one?
Ultra Ultra Despair Girls.
Is that an easy platinum? I never thought about that.
It's a you just gotta collect. It's an easy platinum if you look up a guide. It's mainly just a lot of collecting and a lot of doing because there's puzzles in the game. So it's just do the puzzles at good boy speed and good boy timing, and it's a easy platinum to do.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna switch you off for somebody else, but I wanna. If you have any questions, feel free to think of a question for me. But my question for you before you go: who was the most fun character for you to play as in Strikers, and why?
Um, Fun that is. I could be who was fun and who I it'll probably be Haru, even though I'm biased because she's my favorite Persona 5 character, but it would probably be her because her attack where she if you just hold down the button, she and her persona shoot like bullets at the enemy, and if you level up her master arts a bit, you can do it infinitely. So it's so fun to go into a big crowd of enemies and just shoot and fire at them and then just make them go everywhere. And like that's fun. I like doing that.
That is like she has one of the most very satisfying heavy attacks. Like not
Oh
even like
yeah.
the spamming her grenade launcher. Like one of my favorites is the I think it's like light heavy when she starts doing the like spamming basically the like hammer down like bam 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 bam
Oh
bam.
yeah, I like that, and also just spinning. And she can spin with her axe, and that's cool to just spin around the enemies. And
It's
you
always
know,
really hard to make those really slow heavy characters fun, but they found a good way of like kind of turning her into a heavy charger, which I
yeah,
wouldn't have thought of.
yeah. So I think she would have been my she is my favorite character to play in Strikers.
Okay. Any question for me before you head off?
No, not really. Play AI. I have to suggest that now to everyone.
Play Ultra
So
Despair Girls, play A at the Somnium File, and play Persona 5 Strikers. We'll just keep adding game recommendations with each person who comes in.
I mean, yeah. I mean, thanks to sales, I have a lot of games to play, and I went back to play The Sims 4 for a bit. So clearly, I'm good at playing games.
The Sims 4, man, that takes me back. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your night, and thanks for popping on and listening.
You too.
All right, I think this person was next. JFX Aries. Hit that.
It's Paris,
Dang
but
it.
okay, I'll go. Yeah.
I blew it. I apologize. So,
Have you not played FF7?
well, I'm also one of those people who I think I'm on the wrong camp of naming things. Where I say Titus, not Titus. I say Cecil, not Cecil. I say Zidane, not Zidane. So I'm on the wrong side of all history.
Yeah. So all right.
So if you would like, feel free to give an introduction to who you are and what did you think of Persona 5 Strikers.
Well, I'm Joey. I'm known as JPXeris on Twitter. So got theme going there. I love JRPGs, especially Atlas ones, Square Enix ones. So I play a lot of them. And Strikers was one of my big games of last year that I was really looking forward to.
I think you might have posted this recently. I wanted to share it, but I was pretty much too busy for Twitter yesterday. Were you the person I saw who was like, it was like, what was the better RPG of 2020? It was Royal or FF7 Remake, and I was like, what an obvious answer. It was FF7 Remake, of course.
No, it wasn't me. I was just saying it was. I wasn't actually. I was like, can't we just say that both these games are great and just
Oh,
move on?
fantastic.
That was my response because.
Well, yeah,
But
it's always got to be a competition. Unfortunately, that's why like I always find it funny when it's like very much like picking the like sides of like, well, it's like while there's people who will be like, oh, well, Strikers is obviously a Musa game. It can't be anything else for it. Whereas like, well, clearly it's not all shades of it funny, but how funny people do in terms of picking a side from things like that for it. But yeah, so for you though, well, unfortunately, no FF7 love in Strikers. Although there are some comparisons to FF7 Remake that I could make.
it did feel like playing it. I will admit, it did feel like playing it at sometimes, switching between different characters and using the persona moves on each of the enemies. Like it definitely felt like an action version of Persona 5, which is kind of what FF7 Remake did with the original. So there is that comparison.
So for you, were you jumping into Strikers with any other knowledge of it, or mostly just coming from it from a Persona fan side? Or like, were you going into it with much Koei Tecmo games at all under your belt, or was this kind of like your first one?
This is my first one, unless you count Neo, which
I definitely would count Neo, although technically that's Team Ninja, but anything that kind of dips people into there for it has then your experience with Strikers made you want to check out other games that Omega Force put out.
kinda like I did just get into Fire Emblem, so maybe I'll check out Fire Emblem Warriors, and then there's also Hyrule Warriors as well. So I don't know, but it just feels like Persona 5 Strikers was so much more unique compared to the other Muso games I saw, and that's what really
No,
got
definitely
me to
definitely
pick
would
it
be.
up.
I would say if you are a Square Enix fan, how do you feel about Dragon Quest?
I've not played Dragon Quest, surprising.
If
I've not played Dragon Quest, surprisingly.
if you ever
Yeah.
want to get into it, because the weird thing about recommending Dragon Quest Heroes, it's way more of an action RPG like than most other Warriors games are. The thing with that though is it's extremely fan servicey, so it'd be like playing Hyrule Warriors without knowing who all of these other Zelda characters are. So it's a great game, but a lot of it is relying on you being like, oh my god, it's that character. Oh my god, it's that character. Otherwise, it's going to be like, hey, that guy looks like he's from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, like I get what you mean because when they were originally announced for Smash DLC back in 2020, I had no clue what Dragon Quest was. I thought, oh, these guys all look the same.
Like
So
a lot of Westerners. That's okay. You are Dragon
yeah,
Quest.
but
One day, maybe it'll be Dragon Quest 12. One day, Dragon Quest will
oh,
finally
oh,
blow up big.
maybe Dragon Quest 3 Remake will do it for them. Who knows?
Ooh, that is true. Although that's another one of like, I wonder how many people would just look at Dragon Quest 3 HD and be like, now this old Super Nintendo, no, not even this old NES game. Now this is the game I'm gonna jump into finally. But hopefully it has like that
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler effect where it's so pretty people can't ignore it.
Let's hope Square Enix doesn't know how to make beautiful games.
So for you though, kind of jumping back to Strikers for it, which kind of part of the experience stood out for you the most? Was it the story? Was it the gameplay? Any characters or moments kind of stand out for you in a non-spoilery way?
Definitely a few of the characters definitely stood out to me. Zenkichi was by far my favorite of the entire cast, and I definitely wanted to see more of him in the future Persona spin-offs or even non-canon stuff. Like I really liked this character a lot, even if it was kind of just another Dojima. But that's not a bad thing.
No, and I would even say with Zenkichi's story, I like it a little bit more than Dojima just because we get so much more time with him. Whereas like with Dojima's story, we definitely get more of that from background stories as well as Nanako's perspective. Whereas like we get the inverse with Zenkichi and his daughter. Whereas like Zenkichi's daughter we get a lot less of by comparison, but only because of how much more in the story Zenkichi is basically right from the get go, thankfully.
Yeah, she comes in pretty late, like around the I'd say halfway point. So you don't really get to spend a lot of time with that character, but you still feel the connection between Zenkichi and his daughter. I feel that was one of the best parts of Strikers and probably the best part of the narrative overall. Palace
Now
is,
clearly what we need is if there is ever another Persona 4 and 5 crossover, what we need is Enkichi and Dojima to have a little collaboration scene, or both of them having like a daddy-daughter like bonding moment.
that'd be awesome. Maybe Persona 5 Arena. Who knows? Maybe that's in the plug somewhere. But we don't know at
One
this
day
point.
we gotta get Ultimax to sell a total of 9 million copies first.
They're not gonna do it without rollback.
It's one of those things of I keep getting more and more excited for Ultimax closer to its release, but then I also keep getting sad because I feel like nobody new is going to play this game, sadly. But I did play a ton of it this weekend, and let me tell you, that game holds up still. That game is such a just gorgeous blast to play. Even like if you have no idea what the heck you're doing for it, it is just so much fun.
Yeah, my fighting game friends are really hyped for it. We're gonna have some fun when it drops.
So with Strikers 4, did you have a favorite in terms of characters, or anyone that kind of stood out for you in terms of just playing as, or you always kept in your party?
One thing wait, is that really a spoiler at this point? Because they did show him in the intro, but
Yeah, Zenkichi being playable is probably this game's worst kept secret, which is kind of nice, I guess, that, like, there are other twists in this game that at least the game never really spoils for it, but no, him being playable, like, like you said, they literally show his Phantom Thieves outfit
they show
in
him
the
in the
opening.
intro.
It'd be very hard for you to not know that.
Yeah, he was really fun to play as. He definitely had the most brawler aspect of all the characters, like get up close combat, post action combat, which is kind of the characters that I go for. However, I also really like playing as Yusuke because, like you said, the Virgil thing was a lot of fun to use in terms of overall combat. But then you have who's another character that was really fun to play? Oh yeah, they actually made Mona a useful party member in this game.
Well, I mean, I don't. Even if you hate Morgana, Morgana literally you can press a button and just turn into a car. Like, what's not to like there?
Yeah, I guess you're right. So yeah, he was pretty fun to play as in gameplay wise. As Cross Renren said, Haru was also really fun to play as. It was fun to it was fun to see more of her sadistic side in terms of Striker's gameplay compared to Persona 5. Because she goes crazy in some of her attacks.
Would you say, were there any, and this doesn't have to be a character thing, it could just be any aspect at all, were there any aspects about the game that you might have been a little let down by, or things that ended up disappointing you at all?
The side quest, definitely. Compared to Persona 5, it's very bare bones. Like, it doesn't have the social links, it doesn't have the activities. It's limited per area, and most of it's just fetch quests anyway. So, yeah, that was kind of disappointing. Except for me, the only really interesting ones are like the few extra boss battles you got, but against like some of the more infamous, I wouldn't say personas, but demons in the series. Plus the fight against the Reaper at the end of a post game, I still have not been. It's a hard fight in comparison to everything else in the game.
It's interesting. Normally, I would actually say I think Strikers has better side missions than normal Persona 5. But yeah, if you think of social links in that aspect, no, definitely for sure. I'm more coming out of it, I'm comparing like Memento request versus the request you get in this
definitely.
Then in that one, just because
It's
with
Mementos,
that one's very much like, okay, I'm going through the same thing. Whereas at least the environmental differences, and I'm always a sucker for the even when they are like fetch quests, there's still, like, you have to do some logic of, like, it's very rare for a request in Strikers that's like, go to here and then go to here without there being, like, a challenge. Like, right now I'm showing on the screen, hey, go from this place to this place without warping, but you can't ever be detected. Like, having a little challenge
I
like
remember.
that. Like, having challenges like that make it a little bit more fun than me. But yeah, if you're someone who enjoys those social link aspects, that would definitely be missed.
Yeah, I just felt like there wasn't enough interaction with the characters outside the main story, which is fine for a spin-off. I was just a bit let down by that, especially coming out of Royal. So that's just it for me.
Okay.
And then there was also the story. Well, it just kind of felt like, except for like maybe one or two dungeons, it kind of felt like a rehash of Persona 5, just in general. Like same story, same type of plot twist, like you know how it is. And by the last dungeon, I was like, okay, I've seen this before. This is kind of disappointing.
See, I always find the complaint very interesting regarding it being a rehash of Persona 5 in a negative context, because I view it as it's very deliberately doing a lot of themes from 5, but it's aware of it in the sense of like, oh, look, this character is like but On is a part of that story, and she's using the aspects of the original story that she learned to become a better person and then kind of relate to that aspect. So it's one of those funny things of like, it's a rehash in terms of themes, but I think in terms of it's building off of what the original did. So, like, yeah, that one, it's like, I get it if you're not a fan for it, but it's like, it's at least self-aware of it, of like, hey, because like I like certain aspects of it more for other characters. Like I don't necessarily care for Haru's story in the original five, but I like how she took this character who we've never really known about and could be like, hey, I had to learn about it like through this and stuff, like how like they could kind of become more of the relator because like nothing it never really meant anything to me like seeing the characters sort of come to terms on their own in P5, whereas at least it was nice that each character and each villain had someone to kind of relate to, and it made sense. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, that was also a good thing that Strikers did. Improve, like, branching out these characters in terms of their, like, basically showing how much they've grown over the past year in terms of where they started and now they're here. And it's kind of cool to see that.
Okay.
Oh,
You have any question for me before we get on to our next person?
nah, well, except for, no. Oh, I missed the SMT5 cast, like, in terms of spoilers, but I don't know if it's safe to talk about that yet. It's been 2 months.
Probably not yet, but we're ever so inching closer to it. I will ask you this then: do you have one person? Do you have an easy favorite for your favorite from the SMT5 cast? Who do you miss the most?
That's a hard one.
It's a Sophie's choice.
Mainly because the characters, Nuo and Yakumo, they were my favorite ones of the bunch.
Okay.
I want to.
Interesting. I feel like I don't normally actually hear Nua as like as a favorite too often, but that's an interesting choice for sure.
Well, I'm a sucker for neutral characters, so.
Or snake people.
Yeah, definitely that too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining in and popping in with us. I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, go play Final Fantasy VII Remake. Best game on the PS4. Just go play. It's on sale right now. I think it's on PC. There's literally no excuse for you guys anymore. Go play the game.
PS4, PS5, Epic Game Store. No complaints. No buts. No reasons not to play it. It's
all right.
We've added another game to our ending of segment / people recommendations. So play
Right.
AI the
Thank you.
Summoning File, Ultra Despair Girls, Strikers, Final Fantasy VII Remake / Integrate, if you can afford it. Alright, people, our next person coming on, who I think has waited the longest next, is Craftium, in, it's gotta be probably the farthest time zone, I think. Craftium, what time is it?
Hello.
Hello.
It is, it's only 20 past 1, so it's not too late.
You're still many hours into the future that I am, so you're living that Thursday energy.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not the next day until I go to sleep. That's what I tell myself.
That's true. So Craftium,
tomorrow won't come, and my assignment isn't due until tomorrow. So,
so Craftium,
well, at least that's
fellow person on YouTube who posts things. When can we expect your 19-hour analysis / deep dive of Persona 5 Strikers?
Oh, I mean, I have a 20-minute video or something on it. I don't know what I'd say other than that, but you know, I don't know what I would do for Strikers if I did anything else. I mean, I have been playing through Merciless recently.
Also, you're selling yourself short. An almost 25-minute long review. That's a very decent review. Not to brag. Ironically, we have mine on in the background. I'm like at 38 minutes, but I also probably could have. That was an interesting one. If I remember, I always love when I do the scripts. I read the scripts and then I edit it last, where I edit all the audio down. I think I had about an hour and a half of me talking for it originally. And I was like, I gotta cut some stuff down to make this somewhat bearable for people to watch.
Luckily, I edit everything as I'm going, so then I don't need to do it afterwards. Like at least on the audio side. Mm-hmm. Though with the script writing, I know 25 minutes sounds like it's good, but like I'm sure a lot of that could have been cut out. I do have a tendency of I'm working on the SMT5 script currently, and just looked at my intro and went, "That's 800 words for an intro."
It's funny because yeah, like SMT5 I thought would have been longer in my brain, and then like games that like I'm not as passionate about end up being longer. Like I think I had 2 hours after I finished recording audio for 13 Sentinels, and that got whittled down to, oh my god, I don't even remember now. Like I think that's still my longest review was 13 Sentinels for some reason. That was just a weird one of like, all right, we're just gonna complain about it. Yeah, that's a 50-minute review. I don't know how that was 50 minutes, but it was one of those ones of I think it was because I had as many things positive to say as I did negative, and then for games like SMT5 and games like Strikers where I don't have as much negative to say, it's a lot easier to make them like shorter. Like I have very few 10-minute or less reviews in general.
Yeah, I definitely like writing out a bit longer. The only small ones I do is some stuff where it's like, well, I mean, there's not an awful lot to say. What you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Yosuke manga is one where it's like, oh, I went into it thinking I was going to do like a big 20-minute thing, and then I came out and was like, oh, this is really short.
So, for all the people out there who are living their wrong lives and have not seen your very excellent, almost 25-minute long review, what do you think of Strikers? And actually, for people like us who've been playing it for so long, has your opinion changed at all? Like, where do you hold it now in regards to all the other kind of P5 universe releases?
I don't think it's changed all that much as like since I've played it. I really enjoyed it when it came out. It was actually seeing trailers for Strikers is kind of what got me to jump back on P5, because I got spoiled on like pretty much every plot point in vanilla.
Oof.
Back when I was like first playing it, because I took a break to focus on college.
You know what?
Because I had a bunch of.
I think this is a safe enough spot. We could spoil P5. I have a hot take then. I don't think there's any spoiler you could be spoiled in P5 that would be like, damn. I wish I saw that in game. Like what could you get spoiled on that would suck?
So I'd finished Madarame's palace, and I was like halfway to Kanashiro's like one, and then I stopped during a trip to Mementos where I had a bunch of quests to do, and like I saved it, and then I started focusing on assignments. And during that period, I already kind of worked out about Akechi because I looked at the DLC list and was like, why does Akechi have less costumes than everyone else? And just like, he's probably a traitor.
The ultimate spoiler DLC.
Yeah. So I worked that out pretty quickly, but then had it confirmed. I can't remember where exactly. And then I saw some art on Twitter, which was like them all like the whole cast wearing like ball gowns and like suits, and they all had a pairing, and it was like Joker with Makoto, Ryuji with Arn, and it had Haru with Akechi, and the top comment was, I think it's kind of messed up that they've paired Haru and Akechi considering da 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 da.
See, even that one I wouldn't give it to it because the game tells you this character related to her dies before you met that character. Like that's always one of those things that I hate so much of like, please tell me this character who I don't know is dead. That'll really make the spoiler 15 hours from now even better.
See, but yeah, at the time I didn't know that yet. Because I was like still second, third dungeon area, and then my friend beat it, and I knew Lavenza was in the game because I'd seen screenshots of her. So I was like, "Oh, how's Lavenza? That other?" Or I said, "How's that other Velvet Room attendant? I don't really know anything about her, but like, is she cool?" And they like tried to protect me from spoilers by saying, "I don't know what you're talking about," despite the fact that I was saying that I knew who she was. And then I went, oh god, what's her name? I can't remember. So I typed into Google, and then like typed out what I thought her name was. And then in the process,
there's just some characters that it's almost impossible to not spoil. Like a weird one is it's amazing more people who haven't played Royal, and I won't say the spoiler. If you look up Kasumi, it's just instantly a spoiler. Like, the first thing that comes up for Kasumi is just her biggest spoiler. So it's like, okay.
That happened with me in Symphonia. I typed in a character's name, and then the first result on thingy was a Wikipedia entry with a different name. And I went, well, that answers my question. But, yeah, so when I was asking about Lavenza and I typed it in, I then saw this big picture of a very menacing-looking man with a big nose. And was like, why is he looking evil? And then saw underneath a description.
The Igor thing is so weird. Of like, I think that fails so hard even in Japan. Whereas like, they clearly were meaning to have that character in there when the original voice actors were still alive. But then after both of them passed, it was like, kind of would have been nice if you guys had maybe changed it a little bit more, because it just like they did like the Phantom Pain voice thing, but even worse somehow. Of like, ooh, it's different. Why is it different? It's like, because it's not him. Of course, he's not acting like himself, and he's a completely different voice actor. Like, you can't even. And then like the fact that then when the real Igor comes out, it's like, well, that's not satisfying at all. That's why, actually, one thing I will say, bonus points to P5S, is thank God there's no Igor. Like, just having Lavenza there is like, that. You know what? That's all we need, especially considering she gets so little screen time in the original. It was nice having her in Strikers.
Yeah, like, God, she gets even less than Haru. Like, especially in, like, I remember, so, like, what happened was, like, after all of that, I went back to vanilla, like, after my assignments and stuff, and sat down, and my thing was, I have to play Mementos missions for, like, 2 hours before I can get back to plot. And I just couldn't get through those 2 hours. And my friends were like, you could just leave, you don't need to do the mission. I'm like, no, I have to min-max my time.
You know what's a weird thing I've never noticed? Is that I just recently bought again Mementos Mission, the manga. I think that is such a weirdly deceptive name, because most of that book just takes place in the real world. Like, you're very,
really?
it's most of it is just like, hey, here's what they were up to between palaces. Like, there are still times of them going into Mementos, but it is a very funny name usage that it's like, no, I mostly think of that as like, here's the goofy stuff they got up into the real world that you never saw in the game.
Yeah. By the looks of it, mine shipped yesterday, actually, my volume, because we were getting it a little bit later.
Are you? I was curious that I didn't see more backlash to a exclusive North American retailer. Like, do you care about the Barnes and Noble exclusive cover, or are you just glad to be getting the book?
I definitely. So I've seen 2 of the exclusive covers, I think, and I'm like, damn, they would be cool, but like at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, because it doesn't feel like something extra; it feels like something alternate.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm missing out really too much on anything, but it is kind of thing. Does one of them have Haru on it? I forget.
Volume 3 has Haru. So yeah, Volume 1 is Futaba, Volume 2 is Makoto, and Volume 3 is Haru.
Oh, damn. I am kind of envious now.
See, my biggest thing is, I think their biggest, obviously I get it, I think there's probably more boy-girl fandom shippers out there with Persona, but I would have just loved it if, like, one of them is just a super gay cover of just Joker and Akechi. It's just because, like, the game tries, and even the manga, even like there's even like official art the artist did, like Saito-san has art he did, I think, for Volume 3, where there's a story about cross-dressing police outfit Joker with Akechi. Like, that's part of the story. Like, I would have loved
I'm looking at some of that art right now. Hold on.
Actually,
can I send it?
Oh yeah, go for it.
No, I'm just trying to see if Discord's letting me, because it's not loading shit.
The weird one there we go. So who's the publisher in Europe for you guys? Is it still Udon?
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Probably.
like if that like,
I think so.
If that was just Volume 3, I would have absolutely loved that. The only pass I give for them being pretty safe choices, because like basically it's like, hey, pick the most popular girls and just ignore On exists. Like, it's one of those funny things of like that makes the most sense, and I give it bonus points at least because it's all unique art. Like the artist drew it just for the like Western market, really. So I always am a fan of like new art is better than like, hey, wouldn't this have been cool to have different art? Because like what's funny about it is I think Volume 1, 2, and 3 have very safe covers in general. Like for Japan, it's literally always just Joker. It's just three different volumes of him. So like I think that changes it up a little bit. My only weird collector's nitpick, because now that I have both cover variants, they have the exact same spine. So you can't tell looking at it on the shelf which one is which.
Oh.
So it'll just be like, oh, what's the other one? So I'll just have to do some creative shelf spacing for them all there. But yeah, so back to Strikers, because this is the most on-topic conversation ever. So with Strikers for you, where does it kind of hold up in terms of how you're still thinking about it, things you liked, any complaints that kind of stick out in your head? Where are you at with the game like that?
Yeah, I still really like it a lot. I think it's one of these things where, like, I definitely agree with you. It doesn't feel like a Muso game, really, at all, despite its core being that. Mm-hmm. Like, like it's obviously built off the same stuff, but, like, I'm very used to at least the Muso games I've played being, we've got to capture all the forts.
Yeah, like that's like what's funnily enough is like for as much shit as that Kingdom Hearts comparison tweet I did, like it's like if you just actually looked at a map from any level of Strikers in any Warriors game ever, it'd just be like, okay, cool, where am I capturing the bases? Like even like get the enemy thing out of it, like that is such a key component to the game of just like you are capturing endless bases, enemies are trying to capture yours, enemies are actively running around in the map, and as opposed to where Strikers is just you find the enemies, you can sneak past them, or you can fight them.
Yeah. Like also on top of that, like to me, a Muso game is about grinding. Like that is the game. Like the story, like
yeah. Well, the funny thing is, outside of that one trophy for your max bond skill, there's never a reason to grind in this game. Like, there's not even a level 99 character trophy, I think. Like, the only thing you ever have to max out is the, like, bond skill for, like, those extra bonuses, and that's just the most alternative, whereas, like, the thing you would always hear about people doing in Warriors games is, like, oh, yeah, I've got to get everyone to max level. Or you've got to get all and then,
got to get all the badges or emblems or whatever it is. Like, all those passive...
really what we need to say is Persona 5 Strikers doesn't have a Lu Bu. I think, like, if you don't have a Lu Bu, are you really a Muso game?
Yeah, it doesn't have a Lu Bu, does it? Like, at all.
There's not even, like, an antagonist that's like a Lu Bu. Well, so what we need now is we need to think of an OC character of, like, how can we incorporate Lu Bu into Persona 5 Strikers 2? That's the real question.
Yeah. We've got to have like a show-style character who starts off as a villain and then joins the team for the end.
Who would be the female equivalent of Lu Bu's like love interest to be like, I'm evil, but you know what? That's some good-looking women over there. I'm gonna join your team. I've gotta convince myself.
God.
The very deep lore behind Lu Bu, everybody.
The only thing I really know about Lu Bu, other than him being a badass, is just the one scene from the anime of him taking out an entire fortress by himself by just throwing spears. It's just one guy handing him to him.
I know not a lot of people love this movie. I could not say enough nice things about the Dynasty Warriors live-action movie on Netflix. The action is extremely over the top, and they somehow nailed the fact that Lu Bu is just an inhuman killing machine, even with realistic proportions.
There's a Dynasty Warriors live-action movie?
Live action. It was produced and made in China. It got released internationally by Netflix because of the pandemic. And you know what? I think for free on Netflix was the best way to watch that movie. I would have paid money to see it in theaters, but I think just it appearing on Netflix one day was probably the overall right choice, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Oh god, I'm looking at screenshot like images now. Bloody hell.
Oh, definitely. By the way, don't do the dub. That's not a
Oh yeah,
recommended
no.
dub. Fantastic cast though. Because obviously it was filmed in China with like Chinese actors and stuff. Very very good. Very very good casting, and it is funny how it's like this Dynasty Warriors has been around for like almost like 25 years and is just now finally getting into actually having Chinese voice acting about Chinese mythology.
Oh dear.
Well, I will wrap us up and try and get us to our last two people who are waiting here. So I want to first ask you if you have any questions for me. Feel free to queue one up. My last question for you: who do you think was the least utilized character in terms of the main cast for Strikers?
Probably Makoto.
Interesting. I would have actually gone with her sister. I think the fact that they include
yeah.
the fact that they include her but not enough to give her an on-screen model made me laugh so hard. Like there's like I'm gonna include your JPEG, but I'm not gonna actually include you in your model.
Yeah, it's probably definitely side then. Yeah, I was just thinking more like party members. She doesn't really have anything to do, and like Makoto, the only thing I remember Makoto doing is getting scared and hugging Joker's leg, and it was like, oh,
she doesn't really have like a character dungeon she collides with, does she?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's you can't have character growth when you've not got a character. Well, I'll move on.
That is interesting. I didn't think about that. But yeah, that is a good point. At least she has a good moveset to make up for being bad character telling.
Yeah, it is fun just turning nuke mode on and then switching to the gun and just watching all of the blue hit sparks like go everywhere.
Oh my gosh! All right, any questions at all for me at all, though, man?
I don't think so. I was going to ask one thing, but I think we already talked about it.
If it was the Dynasty Warriors live action movie, then we've got you covered.
No, I think it was. Well, at least I was thinking of asking about what they could do for like a sequel or something. But if you think they'd do,
I still think if they're doing a sequel, it has to be a globe-trotting adventure. You've already done Tokyo. You've done most of Japan's travel hotspots. Make the rest of it like you're going to America. You're going to like Paris. You're going to Egypt. Like make those real life equivalent locations would be hopefully like the better choice, I would think.
yeah.
I do have one actual final question for you because I gotta help you because I'm bad at promoting myself, so I better be better at promoting other people. So you said your next video is the SMT5 review, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hopefully.
So where can people find your videos, and if they absolutely somehow hate SMT5, what else do you have cooking?
You can find me at Craftium, spelt KARAFTIUM. I've got SMT5 I'm working on. I've got like I'm gonna try and I really want to get to the point where I can get monetized, and I have a huge spike in like watch hours like last year at the end of like February. So I'm gonna try and get a couple of rushed things out. I've got a review on East versus Trails in the Sky because that fan translation came out recently.
Falcom v Falcom.
Yeah. Oh,
what can I do for you to make one offhanded joke at Tokyo Xanadu in that script?
That would be tricky.
I feel like that might be Falcom's most forgotten like RPG.
I do want to cover Tokyo Xanadu in the future because I've played half of it. So I'd be able to gather footage as I played it, and I think Tokyo Xanadu it starts off really generic and cliche, but the character growth actually does end up going places. It's just very good at tricking you into thinking it's not a good game.
I will say, are you playing the original release or EX probably, I'm assuming?
EX. I started with that just because it was on PS4, and then my friend was telling me, and the original is...
I will say
There's a lot.
that's one of the funny things is like I at least give a big shout outs to the publisher. I think it was Exceed and Marvelous for still releasing, because it took us so long to get Tokyo Xanadu in English that they at least actually still released the original Vita to have as a comparison. Like obviously it would have been cooler if they had ported EX to it, but it's nice to kind of have them both as a comparison next to each other.
You say, I think it was Arc Sys alone. Exceed didn't have a thing in that one.
Oh
but,
no,
so
it was Axis Games. You're correct.
Axis, not Arc Sys.
Axis Games.
Unfortunately, the Vita version by itself is lacking a lot of stuff that the EX version had. Like the EX version does a lot to, like it adds like 2 new gameplay mechanics to combat. And when I learned that they weren't in the Vita version, I was like, oh no, that's really simple and basic. The bigger problem is the translation of the Vita version never got patched and is basically an early... the Vita version got released in English first, and it really feels like it's a incomplete, not even first draft.
You're playing for the beta build. You get the beta access.
You are. There were lines of text. There were like several NPC lines of text that are just not translated. And there's like tons of syntax errors.
And just think that's the only version I've played of Tokyo Xanadu.
Oh no, you sweet poor summer child. Because like one thing that I think is that like the game's combat doesn't really get good until Chapter 3 when you actually unlock all of the mechanics, because they give you one mechanic per chapter, and it's like no.
As a massive Final Fantasy XIII defender, I'm very good at playing through games that get better way too late.
Yeah, I need to go back to 13. I've lost my save like 4 times.
Do you
and each
have
time...
a Xbox or PC?
I have a PC. I want to play the PC version.
Yeah, the newest released, because like they made brand new PC versions for the Game Pass versions, and
did they?
Yeah,
interesting.
They're basically what you think the Final Fantasy 13 HD remaster would be. That's what those PC ports are. They have
interesting,
because I know there's quality of life changes.
I know there's mods for... I don't know if it was for the old one or for the new one then. There's 2 cool mods where one is like an AI upscaled texture pack, and the other is, hey, we took the fancy 3D models from the cutscenes and we just replaced the gameplay models with the cutscene models, so they all look way nicer in gameplay.
Mm-hmm. That's still one of those games that I feel like that's gotta come... I feel like 13 has just gotta come to like PS4/5 and Switch one day. Like it's so weird that those are only really accessible on Xbox or PC.
Yeah, and like, say what you will about the games, visually 13 holds up like crazy.
Blind people gotta be the best Final Fantasy game ever. The best blind Final Fantasy. Because if you're only listening to that game, that's gotta be one of the best Final Fantasies to listen to.
Oh yeah, I know, definitely. I know. My mom like hates video games, but like whenever I'm in the car, I'll put on like video game soundtracks that I know that she'll be like, "This is lovely. What's this from?" And I'm just like, "Haha, it's from Final Fantasy." But 13's definitely one of the ones for that.
Oh, just need to open up like another 300 hours to complete that trilogy, and then you'll be set.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for staying up and popping in for us, and everybody again, make sure to check out the Craftium network of channels and get this man monetized, so we can start justifying more financial purchases.
I mean, I don't need to justify them. I'm a fool and make them anyway.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. It looks like our next people we're gonna have on. First up is going to be Marcos, otherwise known as a Chiaki fan over here, and Megidomon will round us out unless anyone else pops into the Discord. So, Marcos, if you wanna unmute yourself and you're still alive, you are more than welcome to rant and rave all about Persona 5 Strikers. If you're able to find it, there you go.
Howdy, Spencer.
I am good. It's been a whopping, I think, 2.5 days since I've seen your face. So, this ironically, this will be the first of 2 times people hear you this week. So, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Had fun at the convention past couple days ago.
Yes, we're. Have you successfully been able to avoid con plague? No one got sick, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Luckily, no one got sick right now.
That was like the one thing I was like, man, with like all the stuff going on, I was like, I'm sure someone I know is going to get sick from being at this convention, but thankfully, has not been the case. But besides being sick, I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts on Persona 5 Strikers? Where are you at in terms of with the game? Where does it kind of hold up in terms of your ranking of all the other Persona 5 games or just stuff like that? Where does it hold up for you personally?
Well, when it first got announced, I remember when everyone was speculating it to be the Switch port of Persona 5, which, and I remember when it got announced, everyone came disappointed because they assumed it was just another game, but I was honestly excited for it because I do like the Warriors games. I have Fire Emblem Warriors, I got the Hyrule Warriors. I even got Samurai Warriors 2, which has a character who's literally Haru.
Oh, that is true. There is a character in Samurai Warriors who is literally just got that moveset. That is very funny.
Yeah, and then when more came out, it was a direct sequel, so I kind of got even more excited. And I I remember picking it up. I remember though I had to wait a little longer because the place I got it picked up had their shipment delayed. But overall, I really like the game. I would probably put up there next to the up with Royal.
So, for you, I'm trying to think. So, we've already talked about Haru a little bit before for it, but how do you feel as a self-proclaimed Haru simp? How was the Haru representation, whether it be in story or her moveset? Did they were there things they could have improved, or how was it in general?
Well, I was really happy that she got a lot of screen time. There's a scene that a friend of mine showed me that I don't want to say because it's spoilers, but it was very funny. But I was very happy that the way she plays was really fun. Like the fact that I mainly have her in most of in my group, in my party,
Mm-hmm.
is because the fact that she's my favorite.
And you know what? Actually, one of the things I'm surprised I haven't talked about too much, but I can definitely bring this up with you now. How did you feel about the soundtrack for it? Because one of my most surprising things about um, Strikers has got to be just the overall soundtrack quality, especially due to the fact that it was all done outside of the Persona sound team. Most of it was all just done in house at Omega Force. How did you like the tracks in general?
The soundtrack is really good. So far, I really like the remix that they made for Rivers in the Desert, which is honestly really good. I even listened to it a lot on that little app that you get when you buy Persona 5 Strikers.
That app is literally what I'm playing in the background right now for the music. I'm just I'm just playing that because that's the closest I have to an OST.
Well, yeah, until we get that until that soundtrack comes out.
One more month.
Mhm.
So, were there any tracks that, besides like the River Desert one, that kind of stood out for you? Like my big one will probably always be Counter Strike, but I will always say this: while it doesn't have as many remixes as Persona 5 Dancing, that one for River in the Desert is very good because it has a lot slower of a build. Thankfully.
Um, I would say my favorite track so far would probably be. I'm not currently at that palace yet, but I am. But it's the Ice Palace one that I heard because I've been watching a Let's Play of one of my favorite YouTubers, Nico B. He did a playthrough of Strikers, and I got to the part where he's playing through the Ice Palace lady, and that song in it it was pretty good.
That's like really funny that well, because also I'm literally showing the Ice Palace right now for the B-roll of this video. Um, so right now where you're at, so you're probably on the second dungeon with Natsume, correct?
Yeah, I did get to beat the first. I did beat the first palace, but fortunately, I was a little busy with work and everything, so I haven't really got around to playing it. And so of course, I'm jumping back on it with the book with this little game club.
So where would you because you're playing, I'm trying to remember. So you're still playing the Switch version, correct? Has the performance or anything kind of bugged you? Because for what I've been always telling people is like, if you only have that, like if you only have one version of this game to play, the Switch version is more than adequate.
The Switch version is fine. Like though, I'll try trying out I'll try the PS4 version because I think you said on the podcast that it runs on 60 now.
Yeah, so PS4 has a 60 mode if you do performance, or there is a try to run at 4K. I think if you have a Pro, I don't think I've seen the game itself run on a native PS4, so I wonder if those modes are still there, because I already had a Pro at the time, so that'll be something I should, like, check out one of these days for, because I remember I did something with a normal PlayStation, but I have not actually just checked out the game on there. So either way, I know no matter where you play on PS4, it's always targeting 60. It just might dip more often unless you choose performance mode.
Mm-hmm.
So for you though, where the story's at so far, are you enjoying where it's at, where it's kind of pulling up there? Are you anything kind of like popping out in terms of things you hope to see, things you're looking forward to, anything sort of leading up to where it plays? Because like I sort of said earlier, my biggest thing with it is I keep feeling like the game just gets better and has strength to strength as each dungeon sort of progresses. Like there's not one case of like, oh yeah, this dungeon's okay, but it gets a little bit better, because the game does a really good job of not like it doesn't keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's definitely a dip in the middle in terms of the length of dungeons, but it never feels like it's slower.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'm currently on Natsume, and and I kept getting this feeling the way that they were talking about he him copying other people's works. It's kind of reminding me of Madarame in a way. Even Yusuke even says it, thinks of it too as well. I kind of gotten that feeling. So I don't know if maybe the later dungeons they'll probably do this sort of thing, because I know in the first dungeon with the idol girl, it on reminded her, it reminds something of on. So I'm assuming in the later dungeons maybe the next one will be maybe Makoto and then Mei Haru as well.
Yeah, so actually the third dungeon focuses really heavily on Haru, and then they kind of take a break and sort of throw a wrench in terms of the character villain dynamic with the next two dungeons.
Okay then.
So I think the last other thing I was going to ask you, if you have a question for me, feel free to think of one. So the question I've been asking everybody, I might as well keep this train going because pretty much everyone else you've been recommending other games. What is one game you are either playing right now or have recently finished that you think more people should be playing?
I want to say that there's this game I got for my Switch, titled No Straight Roads. It's honestly, I picked it up because there was a YouTuber I follow. He voices one of the characters, and but he was it's in the Japanese dub. But I picked it up, and the visuals are really good, and the soundtrack as well for that game is amazing as well. I'll
Yes,
say the
No Straight Road. No Straight Road was a weird one. Of like, I feel like a lot of people slept on that last year, but that game was like, I think there's even a demo for it. It's out pretty much on everything, and like that's one that's definitely up there for me. Of like, I own it. I just haven't like played it yet for it, but I like have heard nothing but great things about the story and the soundtrack for sure.
Yeah. Though I would consider maybe getting it from PS4 and PC because the Switch version does run a little choppy
Okay,
at times.
interesting. Okay, any last question for me at all before we think we got like two other people after you then?
Yeah. Not really much of a question, but I did check out that one visual novel you recommended,
Oh,
Synergia.
Synergia, yeah.
Yeah, I picked it up since it was on sale for like $9 on the eShop.
What was your thoughts of it? Hopefully I will not be PayPaling you $9 for a bad recommendation.
Um, it's good. Hopefully I'm gonna try to play through it a bit more.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, definitely let me know what you think. That was another one of those ones of I enjoyed the visuals a whole lot more than I kind of would have thought. It definitely gave me some like light 2064 and Valhalla vibes with like the kind of cyberpunky stuff, and I really liked the soundtrack for that one. But yeah, definitely let me know what you think, man. And thanks for waiting so long. Sorry, I kind of had to leave you and Megadomon in the waiting bin for a while.
No problem.
All right, so Megadomon, your time has come now. You've waited, I think, approximately 9 hours. If you're still alive or have not fallen asleep at the microphone, your time to shine is here.
Oh, what's up?
Well, not a whole lot. We're just polishing our love of Persona 5 Strikers. We've not had too many negative Nancys, so I guess that's a good thing. How do you feel about the game? And what do you want to let us know?
I'm kind of mixed on the game, pretty much. Like to me, it kind of feels like Persona 5 story in a way. I don't know who pointed this out, but I think it was Simply Dead. Like, it kind of felt similar to Persona 5 story in terms of like the monarchs.
See,
Like,
I find the negative comparison to the story interesting of like, I think it using the themes is interesting. That like a lot of people bring it up of saying like, oh, its story is just Persona 5 again, as like a bad way. Whereas like for me, I look at it like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier of like, I like that it builds upon the themes of it and like, hey, here's how On has grown. Here's how Yusuke has grown. Here's how Haru has grown. Because otherwise, if it was each level, oh, On has to learn this lesson. It's not, oh, On's learning the lesson. On is connecting with Alice, and she can be like, hey, this has literally happened to me. Like like she's being like, hey, I know what you're going through. I've been through this. I'm also a model. Like, I can understand where you're coming from. This isn't the right way to like do it. Like I like stuff like that, kind of leading into the story. Where if it was literally just Yusuke's story was like, yeah, a guy I know is copying someone's work. That sure sucks. Whereas like, it's building off of it. He's talking about how Madarame was like a hack. He's talking about like and how he's getting offended in different aspects like that. So I like the way that it builds it. Whereas a lot of the people I've seen complain, like even I've seen the Simply Dad review of like, yeah, it's literally just Persona 5 again. Whereas like if it was Persona 5 again, that would just be really boring. Whereas like you can't tell this story the way it's told without Persona 5. Like it builds off of it. Kind of in that vibe that obviously this is not everyone's cup of tea. If you've ever seen like an OVA or like a direct-to-DVD Disney movie, where it's like, it's not original. Like, no one's going to say Aladdin King of Thieves is great, but no one's going to say it being similar to previous Aladdin isn't going to like make it like bad. It's just using similar themes and similar aspects of those characters. Whereas like, I'm definitely an outlier though, of like, I personally think that this tells a better story than Persona 5 or Royal, at least in my opinion for it, with the storytelling.
huh? I mean, in terms of, like for Sophia's story, I kind of felt it was similar to Morgana, like her not having memories and all that. But I'm pretty sure like it's because she was just booted up, like in the cube in the first dungeon.
I'm trying to think. That's interesting. I've never actually compared Morgana's "I'm a human but I'm not a human" kind of thing to Sophie, because that is interesting. I'm like, yeah, they're equivocally
not that
born.
aspect of it.
Oh, okay, but basically the who's my maker kind of thing then.
Yeah.
Okay,
That kind of thing.
I can get that, but then I would actually say there's a way more interesting story for Sophie, because when you find out who made Morgana, it's like, oh. Like, literally, there's not even a moment in P5 where when you find out why Morgana came into existence, there's not even, like, that, like, there's not even a satisfying, how do you feel about that kind of way? It's more of, like, okay, and move on. Whereas at least, like, even though I would probably say the Sophie aspect of the story is probably the weakest for P5S, I at least enjoyed that. I guess it gave us more to sink our teeth into in terms of a maker versus creator dynamic.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about that is that, yeah, what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Any other kind of like negatives that sort of like stood out to you, whether it be like specific things for the story or things maybe people don't bring up too often?
I've said this on Twitter before, but it's the hot springs event.
Which one, number 1 or 2?
Number 2.
That was. Do you remember when people were like, "I can't believe when games have hot spring events," and then Persona 5 Strikers is like, "I heard you liked hot spring events, so we included 2 for no reason."
I can tolerate it in Persona 3 because it's one you could succeed in or fail in, but in Persona 4 and 5 and 5S, it's just like, oh yeah, here's the boys getting beat up for absolutely no reason.
I love it being there almost for the fact that, like, it's almost the most believable aspect of a road trip. Because, like, have you ever had that moment of you're visiting somewhere with either friends or family, and there's just that night where you start, like, maybe you got to the hotel, it's 11 o'clock at night, everything's almost closed, and you're like, fuck, dude, I guess we'll just get McDonald's? I don't know. And then it's like 4 days after the road trip, it's 2 in the morning, you're about to go to bed, but somebody's hungry, and you gotta make a food run, everywhere else is closed, and you're like, are we really gonna eat McDonald's twice on the road trip? And it's like, yeah, it's probably the worst thing you ate on the road trip, but it was still, like, really quick and digested fast. Like, both scenes don't really overstay their welcome for me, but I instantly get it if you don't like it. I just always find it so funny that it's just like, yeah, you didn't need to have the first one, you extra didn't need to have the second, but they're so fast and they're so just, like, inoffensive to me that, like, I just have to laugh at them. Like, they're not, like, they're just so stupid.
Also, like, someone hates those so much that they made a mod for Persona 4 Golden where it just completely skips it.
That's one of the weird things I'll never understand. That's one of the weird things I will never understand, actually, is the people who vehemently hate them, like, it's ruining the experience. Because, again, like I said, there's never, like, a hot springs level. It's a hot springs scene. Like, it's always very easy to skip. So it's one of those funny things of, like, I can't ever imagine a game that, with it in the game, made it an overall worse experience. Like, the only game I've played where the option to do the hot springs was taken away from me was Tokyo Mirage Sessions. And then even after looking at the Japanese version, I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that not being in the game, because it added nothing to the experience outside of costumes. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I got a little warbly on my end. So, besides complaints, like, was there things about it you thought the game did well? One of the weird things is, even where some of the people I know who really, I don't really super appreciate it. Like, not that I don't appreciate it. I like other people's opinions. I can never really relate to. I can relate to the story complaint a bit. The gameplay criticisms I see are very few and far between, and I think that is one of those weird ones of, like, for me, is like, at the end of the day, this is a very solid action RPG. Like, how do you feel about the gameplay?
It kicked my ass, which I'm glad about.
Yeah, like, I like that this game,
I mean,
like,
even though
it's normal will kill you, which is always a good sign.
Hell, even easy will kill you.
That's why, like,
that's how difficult the game is.
One of my favorite streams of all time was, I think it was pre-game coming out. No, it was when Digital Deluxe. Digital Deluxe was almost out, was out. So people who could pay more money could play the game, and I was a big stubborn boy and did not want to pay an extra $80 digitally. I was watching LaRue stream it on the hardest mode he could, so I guess it was just hard because you can't start with Merciless. And it was like, we're gonna play the game on hard because I bet you it's not hard, and then dying in the tutorial after, like, the tutorial boss. I just thought it was so funny. It was like, yeah, it's like, this isn't like an easy game. Like, there's easy aspects of it. Like, it's definitely easy to cheese this game, but I always love that when it's like, how hard could it be? Dies after.
I mean, I kind of wish they did the same thing. Like, I wish Strikers did the same thing with like Digital Devil Saga did, where if you transfer Persona 5 Royal data, if you're on PS4 or if you're on the Switch and you have the Smash Bros. Joker DLC, like you can unlock stat bonuses and have the hardest difficulty unlocked from the start, and not have a New Game Plus exclusive.
That's always such a tough one. I will at least say, thankfully, the game doesn't have difficulty related trophies, only with the exception of starting New Game Plus with Merciless, which it basically just means, hey, like once you're going through this game on like God mode, that's a pretty easy thing to do. So it's like if there were multiple, like if it was like a Devil May Cry 5, like Devil May Cry 5, I don't like how it sections off its difficulty into multiple playthroughs are required, where like at least with this it would have been nice to have it there, and obviously could have been one of those things of, hey, maybe like 9 months down the line patch it in so someone could do it. But I would almost say, because of the way the game plays, is like I would never recommend someone's first playthrough being Merciless, just because the game is so balanced well already that like I would be like, you're just going to be giving yourself not a rewarding time, you're going to be just giving yourself a harder time.
I mean, some people do roll that way.
Well, it's like for certain aspects I get, like if you want your first playthrough of SMT5 to be on hard because that's how you like to play those games, I get that, because you're that's probably not your first SMT. Whereas
That's what I did.
Whereas like I would never recommend someone playing SMT5 for the first time being on hard. Be like, no, dude, like play normal and then go from there. But like for someone's first kind of jump into this, whereas I think a lot of Persona fans' first game that is like this genre or by this developer was probably Strikers. So like if you were like, hey, expect this to be like Persona 5 hard, you would even then be greatly, greatly mistaken.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. I did start SMT5 on hard mode. I regret it. I regretted it.
and then
because
the game decided to be very mean to you.
Yeah, at the, I don't know if the Tokyo Tower boss is what got me.
Oh yeah, that was one even on like normal. When I was playing through on normal, I was like, woof, this game is not kidding around.
It felt like SMT5's version of Matador.
That is interesting, with the exception of at least the game, I would say, does a very good job of telegraphing, hey, have water. This guy's got a lot of poison and a lot of fire.
Yeah, it was like that, but without the buffs and debuffs. Instead, it was like, hey, here's how useful items will be. Use these.
I am like, my biggest takeaway is like every time anyone tells me they're playing SMT5 and they're not up to the Hydra boss, I just always immediately go, cool, do you have Mermaid? Because you need Mermaid. Like I'm sure you can beat Hydra without Mermaid, but it's just one of those things that it'll make your life infinitely easier if you just get Mermaid as quickly as humanly possible.
Although the downside to that is that she's weak to fire.
True, but she's also the earliest and only person, I think she's the only demon you can get that has a multi-hit water attack.
Is she?
Yeah, because her unique skill of Siren Song is the only one that does multiple ice damage back to back, which was one of the big things for her. Is like, yeah, she's weak to fire, but if you get all crits and stuff, then you're doing 3 to sometimes 5 critical ice attacks to this guy.
Yeah.
So, hold on here. Okay, I thought I had a weird eBay emergency thing come up for me for it. So yeah, though, but like for Strikers, yeah, with the gameplay, I at least feel like, even though it is definitely hard in parts, I think bosses have like actual main story ender bosses are really, really good. I think it's definitely fair. There's never a moment in the game where I'm like, oof, this is a weird difficulty spike. Like, were there any moments that kind of stood up to you of being like overly difficult, or do you think it was pretty finely tuned in that department?
I think it's like the jail, like the bosses before you take on the jail bosses, like, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the jail keepers. Like, well, I guess not the jailkeepers. The people who you need to fight the jailkeepers. Yeah, those bosses I have beef with just because they're the only ones that are literally just like repeat bosses, and I always hate that. I'm just like, here's a guy, give him a different weapon each time. Thankfully, the game kind of stops doing that after like the 4th dungeon. But yeah, that's always a weird one. I'm not a huge fan of the take the same archetype boss in the same environment and repeat it over and over. Thankfully, at least those are pretty like forgettable. I guess like the only real complaint with them is they always feel like the spongiest bosses in the whole game, which is never a satisfying feeling.
Yeah, that was my main issue. Is like, okay, are these guys just resistant to physical, or am I just that weak?
Yeah, that is a weird
Because
one.
yeah, because like it would only take off like a pinch of health every time I like close to a pinch of health. I'm just like, what the hell? I'm just like, what the hell?
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones for it, but yeah, pretty much the pre-boss bosses are pretty much the only ones I can always think of as just being the most like thanks for wasting my time. But at least the game, I always felt like it never did it enough that it felt like a negative because it's not like every boss has one of those. I would say maybe half of the dungeons in the game feature them, and they're at least kind of spread out just enough to not make it annoying. Did you have a favorite, or maybe like someone who kind of stood out that you used the most in a like kind of creative moveset way?
Ooh, uh, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
I'd
I
say
would say there's not a bad character in the whole roster. Like everyone is very unique, which you would hope in a less than 10 character roster would be the case.
I think Yusuke was my most used character.
For the Virgil love, or mostly just through the very big AOE attacks.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Also the when you're just using a normal attack, it's so satisfying.
That is true. I will say Yusuke probably has my favorite, not even most favorite, most satisfying gun. Because like if you have like a large group of enemies, it is fun just to like use his assault rifle just to like blast through people, even though it is like the least accurate gun in the entire game. Just because if you actually made it like an assault rifle, it would feel a little bit cheap. Like the only one like that I would say that's like weirdly accurate is On. Also has a very satisfying SMG, but it is so weak that it never really is like fun to use unless you're in like a huge crowd weak to guns.
I on like honestly, I felt like the only one whose gun was even worth using was Joker's, because
Really,
there's
Joker's
like that.
is like my least. No, Sophie's got to be the least used. Sophie's got a garbage gun.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a gun.
It's a Mega Man blaster from Kirkland. It's a Kirkland Mega Man blaster, basically.
It's a bootleg Mega Man blaster, pretty much.
Oh, I will say, uh, top 10 shotgun. Ryuji's got a top 10 chargeable shotgun. That was always satisfying to use.
Really?
Just because like once you get his master skills loved up all the way, his charged shotgun attack always did so much good like damage and would like stun people enough for like really good setups. Especially, he's got probably one of the only useful guns for bosses. No other boss you're really going to use your gun for. But yeah, Joker to me, his gun was good for combos, like his triangle attack that would use him, but like for just aiming and firing, I never really enjoyed using Joker's gun just because it is just a basic ass pistol.
I mean, I only really use Joker's gun like as a last resort strategy. Like when I run out of MP, I'm like close to death. I'm just like, okay, just shoot the enemy. Pray to God I get lucky.
I will say it's at least a better charge attack than Sophie's gun charge, because it's at least not as slow.
Yeah, I haven't used Sophie's gun like I never used it.
So Sophie's actually one of those weird ones of like she's a really interesting moveset when you're using her correctly, but I think if you're not using her correctly, she's not very pick up and play friendly, which can make her kind of seem like a more boring character, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if you
I will
if
say,
you take the time and learn the flow of the yo-yos, it is a really like she can do some crazy like combos and stuff.
yeah, honestly, her Joker and Yusuke's normal attack, they felt the most satisfying, whereas characters like Haru and Zenkichi were just very freaking slow.
Yeah, I will say Zenkichi was definitely more pick up and play friendly, just because of how heavy and like much damage he can do. Whereas, yeah, Haru is also a weird one of like for is like if you don't want to like really take the time to learn certain aspects for it, yeah, those characters can be a little bit more weird. Whereas like I think even more mid characters, like at least for me, like On or Morgana, still were like if I had to play them, it never felt like oh god I've got to play them. Like there was never a like I can't do this.
It's doable, but it's just a big pain in the ass.
Well, any other like last thoughts? Any thing you'd want to praise about the game, curse about the game, anything like that?
Those are all my thoughts, and before I forget, I got Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth,
Hey, what platform?
PS4.
I appreciate that. Hacker's Memory will be waiting for you once you finish this masterpiece. At some point, I will think of a way to play that on this channel and not be a coward. But there's not enough good things I can ever say about Cyber Sleuth. Those games are so fun.
I was about to play Cyber Sleuth one day. It was 11 o'clock at night. I was at the beginning. My power goes out. I'm just like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to bed. I'm just like,
it was a sign. Now actually, are you picking it up because you've heard a lot of good things from people who like SMT, or are you also a Digimon fan?
I just picked it up just to try it out.
Because I just realized with your name, I could totally see you being a Digimon fan. Megidomon, Digimon.
And the Megiddo coming from Megami Tensei.
True, but the Mon could easily be a Digimon reference. So no prior Digimon love.
Yeah, nothing prior.
That is insane. Never grew up watching the show or anything. No tie.
Nope.
Wow. So what's interesting is the game is a very different tone than the show. So I would say you don't need it to really enjoy it because they're a very different kind of thing for it. But that'll be really interesting. Let me know. Feel free to at me when you start playing it. I would really love to know what it's like jumping into a Digimon game with no recollection of who the characters are. Because like you're gonna look at Agumon the way someone just looks at like any other Digimon. Like you're not gonna be like that's the main guy. And the nice thing actually about the Cyber Sleuth games is the game. They don't lean into the like outside of one character in Cyber Sleuth 1 whose main Digimon are Agumon and Gabumon. The starters aren't even like your traditional one. Like the most traditional Digimon you have from starters to pick from is Terriermon, and even that's like a season 3 pick. So like he's not like the Eevee of Pokemon. So like that's one of the nice things is like whereas Pokemon definitely jumps back and forth from hey these are the marketable ones. Digimon doesn't really have a lot outside of like Agumon and Gabumon probably to a little bit of a lesser extent. Whereas like the whole roster is so wild, so it'll be really interesting to see like what you think of that compared to other monster collecting games. Like, have you played other ones outside of Pokemon at all that would kind of be comparable, or obviously SMT?
I ain't too sure.
Like, I'm either way. That's got to be so weird. I can't even imagine jumping into that game with like basically blind franchise eyes. So I'm very envious of you.
I want to play it right now, but I don't have my PS5 with me, which is unfortunate.
Let me tell you, if there was ever a game you're going to play on a PS5 and go, boy, this was made for the PlayStation Vita, it'll be Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
Look, I thought it was on the Vita originally.
Yeah, it was a Vita exclusive in Japan, and funnily enough, the PS4 port was actually a Western exclusive for a while. The only way you could buy the PS4 version in Japan was when Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory came out. If you bought the Japanese version of Hacker's Memory, it included the original PS4 version.
That's kind of inconsistent.
Like, yeah, it's very weird.
Very odd.
But I mean, it is one of those games of like outside of it, like it looks good, like it graphically has a very good like graphic style. It's not gonna be, you're not gonna be like, whoa, man, this is like a top. Like there's a reason I like playing it on handheld, but I have it on all three at least systems it's on. I have every version except PC. So it's like one of those games where like it's good to play anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I don't think. No, I was thinking of that one. I was getting it confused with Digimon World New Order. There's one of those Digimon games that was made in Unity, and I always have to remember which one. Yeah, Cyber Sleuth was made in proprietary tech, whereas for whatever reason they were like, let's try Unity on this one game, and then never touched it again, and that was New World for it. But if you get into it, there are a whole bunch of other really, really good Digimon games waiting for you. So hopefully it lives up to all the years
Oh,
of
I
hype.
know. I know. I've seen it. I've seen it all.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for waiting. Did you have any other questions or whatever for me, or anything you want to say before you dipped out?
I finally completed one of my challenge runs.
Oh, nice. Which one?
Can you beat Shin Megami Tensei DDS with only your starting mantra lines?
How either fun or annoying was that?
It was a really like it was 50 like 70 25 75 25. Sheesh. School's like taking yeah, it was 75-25. Like 75% of it was fun, but like 25% of it was like annoying because I would always get into the problem of, okay, I mastered out a mantra, but I can't buy another one until I get the correct amount.
Now, here's the scary question I got to assume. How long did that take for a run?
14 hours.
Really? Okay, I would have thought it would have taken a little bit longer, but I guess at that point you're also skipping like all the optional and story stuff, right?
I only did the human Beelzebub fight.
Okay.
I tried the fly Beelzebub. I'm like, no.
You were like, I'm not ready for this kind of life.
Although someone did beat fly Beelzebub in human form only.
That is crazy. Have you posted that online at all yet or anything?
Oh yeah, it's on my channel.
Okay, this is where you then plug your channel so everyone can give you all the YouTube money.
Yeah, now I'm currently on DDS 2.
Same challenge, human only and everything?
No.
Okay.
I'm on DDS 2. I'm doing low level, no buffs or debuffs on hard mode.
Okay. That seems at least a little. It's still interesting, but less internally frustrating. So, is same way to find you on YouTube, just Megidomon?
Yeah, well, except it. Like the YouTube's thing is like screwed, so that it's like, did you mean blank blank blank? And you have to click on my name again just to get to my channel. Like, which is really irritating.
Ooh, all right. Sorry, it seemed like I abandoned you. I had to open the door for my wife, who was stuck outside, but I could hear you. No, so
All right.
I definitely understand. Well, congrats on your run. Congrats on adding, without even knowing it, our 9th game, I think, on our very long list of other games that aren't P5S to recommend to everybody. And also, thank you for waiting what felt like 2 hours to come on the show. So I appreciate your patience, man.
Hey! I enjoyed the hearing the conversations of others.
All right, our final guest of the night, if they are still alive, FF7, I assume is the name. If you are still there, feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and let the world know what you thought of P5S. Anytime, no pressure. The world's your oyster. I see you're unmuted, but I don't see you talking. If you are able to talk, you can type. You can let me know. You're also giving me a good opportunity to pull up the Patreon, patreon.com/SMTN, so I can thank our producers at the end of this. So if I pull up that list and you've not said anything, I'm going to start ending the show because we're wrapping things up. My internet is going slow as well. Alright. Wow, my internet's going really slow today. Alright, I guess we're going to start wrapping up, everybody. Well, everybody, if we have a mysterious appearance by FF7 with their microphone, feel free to interrupt me while I'm saying goodbye. I see you troubleshooting. Oh no! Special executive producer Jagingus has popped in to extend Axel 7's microphone troubles. Jagingus, do you have thoughts and prayers to say about P5S?
Damn, I just popped in and I'm already talking. Okay.
Well, it's because we're wrapping it up. We're getting to the good part.
I didn't realize I only just got here.
That's okay. We're doing a tight 90-minute show, surprisingly. The rare under 2-hour podcast.
Wow, changing it up.
Otherwise known as I have a lot of other things I need to be doing, and I'm being very bad about being productive today.
I feel that.
So yeah, any spoiler-free thoughts you'd like to throw out into the ether about Persona 5 Strikers now that it's free for everyone out there on the PlayStation Plus world?
Well, I thought it was a pretty good game. I enjoyed my time with it. I mean, I know over time there's been some like kind of mixed thoughts on it overall that I've seen here and there, but overall I say I had a good time and it was worth the year wait.
The non-believers, of course.
The non-believers.
I would say I think this has probably got to be the least divided game. Like, I feel like you can make an argument for P5 being either loved or hated. Royal still has its not fans. Dancing has that fans. And yeah, like Strikers though, like there's not like a lot you can say is inherently wrong about it. Like it's not like a offensive game.
I mean, it gave us Counter-Strike, so
Exactly. It's put more charitable good out into the world than anything bad. How about this then? My question for you before we try and wrap up, or Axel 7's microphone finds itself. What was your favorite moment in terms of gameplay? So a not story related moment that stood out from your playthrough. Could be a boss, could be like a weird dungeon design thing, could just be anything that stood out.
I've never even thought of that, honestly. Huh. There was one of the bosses that I thought was kind of cool because it was like, oh, like a 1v1 kind of affair.
Oh, yeah, the literal Dark Link equivalent boss fight. No, that's a great one of like basically a literal 1v1 fight. Especially because like that almost feels like something you would have like saved for the finale of it, but they kind of have their own interesting twist for that one. No, yeah, that fight's always really interesting. Of like that like was one of the most popular like in the Atlas Awards thing. That fight came up a whole bunch, and that's funny. Like that one boss has such a interesting like niche fan base, even though they literally just appear for one thing. My only complaint with that segment, I wish you could have picked who you fight. Like, I get it, like, it's Joker v. who you're fighting. It would have been cool if you were like, honestly, I want to do Ryuji, or I want to do blank, or I want to do this person, because, like, I feel like having that as, like, a little interesting thing of choice would have been really, really great.
Yeah, honestly, at first, I thought it was going to kind of be, like, maybe you, like, at a certain point, kind of, like, swap between or something. I don't know how it would work when I first jumped into it, but, I mean, it kind of does make the most sense to just have it be a straight 1v1, but I don't know, a little just having Joker v Joker can put some people off, I guess.
How funny would it have been though if they were not cowards and for the boss we just had to beat up a little girl? That would have been great.
I feel like that wouldn't be the first time.
No,
in the series.
It wouldn't. But I mean, it is one of those funny things.
Trying to
like,
remember what specifically.
They already
I feel like
gave
it's happened
her.
Before.
They already gave her like a villain's outfit, so it was like I thought we were just preparing to just literally spank her for the boss fight. That would have been very funny.
No, she would have had some special super duper Omega form if that was the case.
That's true. Her superpower was the ability to create other boss fights quickly and asset flipping.
Exactly. See, she's the cut corners boss.
All right, man. Well, I'm about to read off your name and wrap up this show. So, do you have any final word? Any off-topic game recommendation? Anything you want to throw out into the ether? We've already pimped Ultra Despair Girls, AI the Somnium Files, Tokyo Xanadu.
Oh, good AI's there.
We, we've got all the hits that no one's recommending right now in 2022. Anything you want to throw out there?
Uh, damn. Well, I just recently played Valhalla. That was pretty good.
Oh, you can never not recommend. Valhalla has actually come up a lot recently. That's a funny one. Where'd you play it at?
Oh, I played it on the Switch. I imported the Japanese physical.
That's a great cover though. That's a really nice cover. On
Oh
that
yeah, I do like how the contrast between the Switch and the PS4 ones with the
Yeah.
coloring.
I'm always a sucker
Kinda nice.
for those kind of like more minimal cover for them. So those ones always really stand out for
Yeah,
it.
sometimes they work.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there's a phone port of Valhalla, which is weird because I feel like that kind of a visual novel would work so well.
That would make sense, but I mean, if it ever did happen, I would probably forget about its existence. Like
99% of other phone games.
yeah, I'm not a phone game person.
I had a very interesting reply.
I've only made exceptions for Nier and Dragon Quest.
I had a really interesting reply from someone recently regarding my tier list video. They were like, the worst thing about your opinions is that you think DX2 should be at the bottom of the list. And I was like, I think that's a compliment, maybe? Like, if the worst thing you can say about me is I don't like DX2, I think that's a pretty good end of discussion opinion, you know?
I mean, I haven't even touched DX2 myself, so I can't vouch for it.
It's
But
there.
also,
It's
I don't
it's
have.
gonna be
Yeah,
there.
it's there. I don't have really any motivation to get to it. Although some of the collabs have been pretty bonkers.
Back of the box, back of the iPhone store review, DX2. It's still there, I guess.
But I was like thinking about this earlier today because I've started Berserk recently. Didn't DX2 did a Berserk collab?
Yeah, there's a Berserk collab where I think you can get Guts, Berserk, Guts, and Griffith. I think might even be there. There might even be more.
Okay, I thought I vaguely remembered that.
Which now just means I have to recommend other game recommendation no one will mention, but we are talking about Omega Force. The Berserk Warriors game, otherwise known as Berserk in the Band of the Hawk, a very underrated game. And
Most likely I'll end up playing that when I finish Berserk.
one of the rare cases of something good that came out of the 2016 anime, because it has nothing to do with the anime. They use all of the cutscenes are basically either in-engine or from the movie from the early 2000s.
It's better looking 3D than the 2016
It's
anime.
way better. And one of the rare cases of a Warriors game with blood and decapitation.
All right, I'm sold.
Because I
About
mean,
to
like,
go on Steam right now and
can
buy
you
it.
imagine like a Berserk game with no blood? It's like, oh, it's okay. It's just
I'm only in the Golden Age arc, and I already know how that is. I'm already like, yeah, that wouldn't make much sense.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for popping in and wrapping us up. I'm sorry Axel 7 wasn't able to sound off in here, but
R.I.P. Axel.
R.I.P. Axel. Still thinking of you.
Get it trending.
But F's in the chat, everybody. Even if you're watching this next Wednesday at 10 o'clock at night, just put a F in the comments with no context. But yeah, Jack, I gotta let you go so I can read off your name along with all of our other extremely handsome, sexy, and attractive Patreon producers.
All right, well, thank you for letting me pop in for a little bit here. I guess.
Oh man, no, much appreciated. All right, I'm gonna disconnect now. Have a nice one-on-one with the YouTube people, assuming my browser wants to stop having a conniption. My laptop is going very weirdly slow out of nowhere, which is funny because I stopped streaming video. This is just audio. So clearly Google Chrome is doing its best job at being Google Chrome. Well, either way, everybody, thank you so much for watching this Town Hall / Game Club discussion for Persona 5 Strikers. If you enjoyed this video, or somehow not subscribed to it, please consider checking out all the other stuff on this channel. We will be doing one more of these before the end of January. So, a reminder, Persona 5 Strikers is free on the PlayStation Store in most countries. You just got to be a PlayStation Plus member. You can enjoy the game. We'll be doing a all spoiler-filled fan discussion just like this, but with more story spoiler stuff out there. So feel free to check out the game. Let us know what you think, if it's your first time, second time, or fifth time, all that fun stuff. Recommend it to your friends. Besides that, yeah, you can check out the show, support the show on patreon.com/SMTN. You can get the show early or other benefits like all the panels and interviews I'm going to be posting shortly on there from TaioCon at $1 a month or more. Or if you'd like to have your name read at the $5 and up tier, just like if my browser wants to start working. Wow, my browser's weirdly lagging today. Here we go. So if you'd like to be a awesome executive producer just like Jagangus, Cross Renren, Dozy Bear, Len, K-Horse, come on browser. There we go. Patrick Dissart, Philip Meyer, C-Show, Jazzy Jefferson, and I know there's a couple left on here doing their best, doing something. Here we go. Solaire, Robert Dogman, Cameron Sharp. Oh, we're almost there. And that is it. Yeah, that's it for the executive producers. I'm sorry, like, my laptop is somehow melting. The stream still apparently seems to have fine quality. It's just my tabs are being really weird and slow for some reason. So that means it's time to get out of here. So check out the show on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Oh my gosh, where else are we? We're basically everywhere. You can check us out on Facebook. We've got the Facebook group, got Discord, which all these people were nice enough to pop in and talk through. Besides that, yeah, follow us on Twitter at SMT Network. My personal Twitter is Torchwood4SP. And that's about it. Enjoy whatever the heck this last hour and a half, no, 2 hours was. Wow, that went a lot longer than I thought it was. And look forward to other videos posting on the channel throughout the next couple of days. Goodbye, everybody.